glutathione, what does it do for a disease? And I wanted to address that because I still deal with that all the time, and my answer is pretty much always the same. And so in a larger venue, I wanted to address that so people could get a better grasp of what you can and cannot say, because it's very frustrating. We get these testimonials of people that have these conditions, these unnameable conditions, and we feel like we want to run out and talk about that. Well, if we do, that's a medical claim. But the thing you can do, you can recognize the fact that this human organism, our body was divinely created, divinely inspired, divinely created. It is infinitely intelligent. There are trillions of mechanisms going on literally every second of every day, 24/7. There are things we don't have to think about that go on all of the time that help to keep our body balanced and help keep us well. And I believe, and many researchers, scientists, and doctors believe, that the linchpin in all of that, creating the balance, is this amazing molecule that I actually call the miracle within, glutathione. And the reason I call it the miracle within, because we create glutathione inside our bodies, inside the cells, because the body in its infinite intelligence knows that it needs glutathione in order to survive. If it doesn't create it, we die. In numerous reasons. Stephen Scott is the best at giving us line by line by line various reasons. There's 400 different functions. But I like to talk about the liver because that's where I actually found glutathione. And Stephen's right. In the medical text, there's about a paragraph. I remember Guyton's Physiology talked about the endogenous antioxidants. Endogenous meaning the ones we make. And it was catalase, superoxide dismutase, and glutathione. But it did say that glutathione was the ultimate. It is the most versatile, and it is the one that was the most important, but then that was it. So it's no wonder that even most doctors, and Stevens mentions this all the time, most doctors don't even understand glutathione or what its immense importance, because it wasn't really taught to them in medical school. Why? It wasn't taught because it's so difficult to get into the body. The one way that it's used in medicine primarily is in emergency procedures. In fact, if you have an acetaminophen overdose or some overdose of other drugs, it's recommended to IV glutathione because that's the detoxification agent. And if you talk to an emergency room physician, they go, oh yeah, that's what we do. But most just general practitioners don't often use glutathione because they saw it as very difficult to get it into the body, and it is. And that's what happened with us. Back in 1985, even, we were dealing with people that had chronic issues in many different, I shouldn't mention diseases because I talked about not mentioning them, but a lot of chronic issues. And we tracked it back to gut, liver, and immunity. All three of those are supported by glutathione. And you can say that. Liver function is supported by glutathione, and the liver has 500 known functions. Back in the day, back in the 80s, we said 300 known functions because as we study, we find out more and more and more, but the liver is everything to do with the blood. It gets all of those factors in the blood right, whether it's enzymes or hormones, precursors, or all the metabolic factors. It's interacting with all of your different organ systems, the GI system, the endocrine system, the brain, all of these different systems. It's kind of orchestrating them. Like if all of your organs were members of an army, the liver would be the general. It's kind of orchestrating everything. Very important. But the liver is challenged by the gut, if the gut isn't functioning. And so we tracked it back to the gut issue causing the liver issue. Well, the gut, it's very important. The gut has adequate glutathione to function properly and to build the membranes strong so you don't get a leaky gut. And these days, the assault on the gut is just phenomenal. And so it becomes leaky. Most people have a degree of leaky gut. And the other thing that becomes challenged when those two factors are kicking in, leaky gut, overloading the liver with these large molecules, the other thing is the immune system becomes exhausted and becomes slap happy, and autoimmunity is easily happens when the immune system becomes tired and doesn't function optimally well. Glutathione is one of the greatest things to support the immune system. So knowing these kinds of things, we don't have to talk about diseases because it's the systems of our body, the brilliant mechanisms that keep us well and keep us balanced. Those are the things that are the miracle, not a product. There's no miracle doctor. It's the miracle within. The issue is just being able to upregulate it, because ironically, from about 20 years old is the most glutathione you'll ever have. And after that, every day you have a little bit less. Why? That's a huge question. And I believe it's because of all of the assaults that we're under, especially in the modern world, the stress that we have in the modern world. And you look at the mechanisms of how glutathione is created. It's created inside the cell by a series of genes being active. And the final gene, a GCL gene, you don't need to remember that, but it's just the final gene that puts the glycine and the glutamic acid and the L-cysteine together, that becomes blocked by heavy metal toxicity, by mycotoxins, which is mold toxicity, and deficiencies of things like magnesium, selenium, and things like that. So those things begin to slow down that gene, and we produce less and less glutathione, but we actually need more and more and more of it. It's very ironic. So the issue was to try to, how do we get more of it? We couldn't take it through our mouths. We couldn't, IV has its own complications, very difficult. As I said, it's used in emergency situations primarily, and some anti-aging doctors use it consistently, but not enough to create those conversations so that it's massively used in medicine. So Stephen Scott's breakthrough of